Stay on.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I am your host, Christian Williams, and I am here, as always, with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, man?
Doing good, man. A long day of watching tape to get ready for this and playing some video games. Obviously, it wasn't just this, thankfully. But
That's good.
yeah, it's exciting. I always like talking the trenches because usually there's a lot of strife between us on just certain things we really like in the positions. There wasn't a ton of strife besides just ranking wise for the offensive line. And we found one person that there's strife about, unfortunately, for this.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call it a strife. It's just kind of like how we project them forward, I think. But we'll talk about it.
Trying to sell here, bro. Come on.
That's fair. Yeah, it's gonna be a big fight. It's gonna be a good show. We're gonna talk through defensive line prospects tonight. This has been a show I've been looking forward to for the last 3 months. I feel like I texted you, Randy, and said, "Man, I can't wait to talk about edges." Back in like January. So we are here. We have made it to the edge rusher and defensive tackle show. But first, so obviously something happened in the NFL over the weekend that was super shocking and super sad. Obviously, you guys have heard that Dwayne Haskins passed away. He was on the freeway. His car ran out of gas, and he was hit by a dump truck. So just wanted to touch on that. I got blocked by Schefter, so that's how I feel about it.
A lot of people did.
Yeah. And Gilbrandt, we're not going to talk about that guy. So super sad. Living in Columbus, I see a lot of the news around here, and a lot of Ohio State students or alumni are going to the shoe and kind of putting up jerseys. And there was one kid that was playing the violin. I almost freaking cried. It was really sad. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Randy?
Yeah, I mean, it just sucks. Guy that while he's just beloved by teammates and coaches and even owners, even a owners group that doesn't have the greatest press ever came out immediately with some pretty kind words about Dwayne. I mean, he was transformative for Ohio State in that program and during a little bit of a tough time and some switching around stuff. So, I mean, all props to him being one of the better quarterbacks at Ohio State. It just seems that I feel like stuff like this on the field never really matters. It's just off the field, and it's just one of those things where he's viewed off the field by anyone that's known him as one of the best guys that they know. So
yeah. And for what it's worth, I think on the field he was doing everything he possibly could to improve. And I mean, he was out in Florida working with his skill position players, trying to compete for probably the backup role, but it's just Trubisky there, so it could have been competing for the starting role.
It's competing for starting there. I mean, Rudolph is there too, doing the same thing.
Yeah. But also just getting chemistry with your teammates, either way, like that. Yeah, it's a bummer.
Developing as a quarterback too, which is a process that is always ongoing, and it's just plain and simple. It just sucks.
It does.
Obviously, it's a guy younger than us, which is crazy. Makes me feel old, but we're not old. It's ridiculous to see someone that young just pretty much dead for no reason, just freak accident kind of thing, and here we are.
Yeah, here we are. All right, let's talk about good stuff. Move past that. So the defensive line class is insane, and that's why I've been so excited for this episode. We're going to start with our defensive tackles. We'll do the same kind of format if you guys have caught any of our other positional ranking shows. where we kind of go 5-1, and then we kind of talk about 6 through 10. I know you're a little more shallow in some of those rankings. I don't know how many you got to today, but we can talk through some guys 6 to 10, 6 to 20 that we like as day 2 or maybe even day 3 guys. So, Randy, who is your? We'll go defensive tackles first.
Probably smart.
Yeah. Well,
Yes,
yeah,
ours
and
are
we're gonna go 5-1. So
yeah. Ours are damn near identical, and I believe your 6 is my 4. So I think we're really close here, anyways. But both of our 5s is the same person, which is Fedarian Mathis, I believe was the pronunciation there. We both have a second round grade on him, so obviously he is very, very talented. A little bit of a lack of, well, no, not him. Sorry, I was looking at Winfrey. Uh, he actually produced pretty highly in college, and overall, just is a great defensive tackle prospect. Obviously, comes from Alabama. He's going to be solid. Like, there's no
yeah,
question there. He's going to be a solid player, 5th-year senior. So he's fought to earn the playing time, which is what you have to do here. But obviously, with the production number he has, he's clearly done that and come out the other side good. 6'4", 312, so the ideal height and weight to some extent, especially to be a 3 tech, more of a 3-5 kind of tech than a interior nose tackle. Overall, though, I believe we don't actually have an RAS on him, if I
we
remember
don't,
right.
we
But we
don't.
don't have like a tremendous athletic score for him, which does drop him down the rankings slightly here. That and explosiveness is what I have as the only like lower traits for him right now. But when we get into stuff like motor, his hand counters and strength, so that initial pop with his hands to drive defenders back, all great. Functional core strength, great. What I mean, he's not like this overall impactful run stopper or pass rusher. He's good at both, not great at either as of right now. He still has room to develop, fought to get on the field at times, but he's a very secure tackler, among one of the best in the class for me. And just coming down to it, I think he has really good instincts, but he just needs to continue playing into this position a little bit more. I think he's going to be an impact player.
Yeah. So I agree with literally all of that. We clearly saw the same things, which
Yeah.
is traditional. That's we talk about these things. We scout fairly similarly. I was having a conversation in a group chat the other night when I was watching him, and I said, "Why? You know, he goes to Alabama. The defensive tackle class at the top is really strong, but like this dude went out. He showed out this year. Uh, I don't understand why he's not being talked about as like sneaking into the back of the first personally." And someone responded and said, I think he's a good mid-round pick, like 3rd and 4th round. And I said, man, that feels low. Like I have a high 2 on him. And so yeah, I think athleticism, the main knock on his athleticism that I have too is pretty much his ability to kind of move when he's in space. But the good thing is that he is often in space. Like he often is able to shed blocks because he has incredible play strength. He plays with good instincts, and his motor, honestly, is unmatched. And in my grading scale, I have him tied for the highest motor, which is saying a lot because, like I said, this defensive tackle class is strong at the top. So I really like Mathis. I think I could see him being taken in the top 50. I think he grades out inside my top 50. Maybe not. That might be a lie, but pretty close. So he's a really good player. He's not ever going to be an 8 sack defensive tackle, and he's probably not going to be a high tackle number guy because he's not great, like you said, at either pass rush or run stuffing. But he's good. He's really good.
He's a vital piece of a defensive line.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's a perennial starter. I don't know if he's like necessarily your chess piece in the middle, but he's not leaving the field in my opinion. Like I view him as good enough in the run to obviously be there first and second, and effective enough in the passing game, at least with shooting some gaps to never like not fully always getting off the field for 3rd down, which is good. That's what you want.
For sure. You did mention 5 tech. I would struggle to kick him out
Mhm.
that wide, I think. But I think he lives
It's
at 3 tech and he's pretty comfortable there.
Yeah, he lives at 3 tech, but you know what it is with a 3-4,
Yeah.
3-5,
Yeah.
whatever you wanna do with those defenses. Sometimes your 3 is really a shallow 4, or your 5 is really a shallow 4, or, even if it is a 5, it's straight up and you're cutting the inside shoulder. So there's
Right.
ways that he could easily be effective in that role. I'm just trying to give him a bit more versatility.
No, no, I hear you. All right. Who's your 4?
My 4 is DeMarvin Leal, who I believe is your 6.
Yeah.
So off the bat, some strife there. No, but Leal is a guy that he's produced among some of the best of this defensive tackle class, so that's kind of shoots him up the board slightly there as well. Um, he is one of the better pass rushers of the group, and it's mainly because I know you have him marked off for this. He is at this point still kind of a tweener. So at 6'4", 290, obviously I just said Mathis is 6'4", 312. There is a decent 20-pound or 20-pound difference there for a reason. I think Leal is a little bit built to be that, like I said, 3-4 defensive tackle, that more of a press end on that side. But he is, like I said, among the best pass rush of the D tackle class, which isn't ever going to be this elite level. Like, obviously, the 10 that you look for at a D tackle is like Aaron Donald. We normally don't get that. And most of the time I'm pretty positive most people when he came out had him maybe at best at like an 8 grade like we have. There's a lot of development there, and I think Liao can do that. And maybe if he can stick to a position, that'll be a little bit better for him because he did move around the field a good amount. And that's why like stuff like instincts I have relatively good for him at 7.5 out of 10. Where there's improvement is positional scarceness. Like if you can just sit in one spot with him, he will continue to develop that. I think a lot of his growth in this part of his game was a little bit stifled by the constant moving, which is okay. I mean, when you're asked to do so much, it shows willingness to compete, and that's something that scouts of the NFL are going to love. He has a really good athleticism score. Yes, it's not the Georgia guys or Travis Jones or Logan Hall for that matter, or whoever the fuck you want to go at that had these incredible D tackle numbers. But he has one of the ones. This is what you expect from a D tackle. This is what you're like. Okay, good. 7.44, 7.5 is what I'd be pretty ecstatic for most D tackles getting in the athleticism score. It's just we're spoiled this year by everyone the fuck else.
It's
uh,
true.
but good motor. He does not quit on the plays. He has way above average hand counters and good power and pop. There is some placement concerns at times. There is some lack of willingness to switch from certain counters and switch from certain things. So it is among the best in the class for me, but I think it could improve obviously because of that. Good strength and functional strength for his size, to where he's not 20 pounds more, but he still has the good strength when he plays. Overall explosive. Really, for me, it's just run stopping and a little bit of instincts that he needs to work on. Because again, I think of him as a D tackle, so he's going to need to get a little bit bigger, and then he can kind of check off a few of these boxes. But for me, he is an ideal pass rush D tackle that can be on the field for all 3 downs.
Okay. Yeah,
Second round
see,
grade. Sorry.
yeah. Yeah, and I have him, like you said, at my 6. Uh, Agree with the evaluation, though. I think I do get hung up. It's tough for me to project him maintaining that play strength when he's full time. I think this is the player that I would be comfortable kicking out to 5 tech. There's another one that we'll get to later that I would be comfortable here and there. But I think I would be comfortable with that because he's done it. But like you said, like he needs to settle into a role and kind of form his body in that way. He was an edge recruit and he wasn't really good enough to just strictly play edge. I just don't think he has the bend to win from the outside. So
Yeah.
he's really a first down edge rusher. So I think, like you said, add about 20 pounds is what he kind of needs. And then maybe he can play with enough play strength to be effective. Like you said, the run stopping thing though is problematic. I think he may be more of a rotational guy at first than some of these other guys that we're about to talk about, which is why, I'd knock him if I were drafting, and that's why I knocked him in the scale too.
Yeah, I think your ideal for him with development is being your pass rush D tackle with the ability on certain packages to rotate out to the edge. Obviously, I'm not trying to do a comp here, but like what the Chiefs do with Chris Jones, where he is your focal point pass rusher from the interior, but he does move outside and he can dominate. It's not with bend, but it's closing the pocket and making good moves with his hands to get past you.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm gonna give my 4 because this is where we differ quite a bit. Well, not that much. I mean, it's really deciphering between the top 4 for me is very, very difficult. They are all within. Well, just kidding. Take my 1 out of that. They're all
I
within.
agree. Take him right out of it.
They're all within
Mm.
3.5. I have made this public. Everyone knows that who's watching probably, so it's okay. But we'll get there. So my 4 is Jordan Davis. Uh, the most athletic defensive tackle I think ever, based on relative athletic scoring. Uh, I have him at 4, and the reason I have him at 4, with a second round grade, mind you, which I didn't realize until just now. Um, I think it's really tough for me to get on board with a guy I think is a 2 down defensive tackle right now. I don't think so. I think he has shown flashes that he can be a force when pursuing the quarterback. I think that I think that it's going to be tough for him to take that next step, though, because he came off the field so often when he was at Georgia. There were the conditioning concerns. He lost all that weight to become the most athletic defensive tackle, but he has struggled to keep that weight off. And so I think we could be looking at a guy who there are 2 extremes with Jordan Davis, in my opinion. Either he's Vita Vea 2.0, where he's just a force. He is one of the best defensive tackles in the league, and he is that within 2 to 3 years. Or we're looking at a guy who, struggles to keep that weight off, has to come off the field on 3rd down, and then is viewed as a bust because he's not able to overcome that. You know what I'm saying? What do you think? So where is he for you?
He's my 2.
Okay. Not that far off, but talk to me about him.
So Jordan Davis, uh, basically everyone's concerned with him. Is not obviously it's not the fucking being an athlete because it's fucking clear he's an athlete, no question. Jesus Christ, it's
It's insane.
scary how
It doesn't
fast
even
he
make
is.
sense. Yeah.
And that's why I think a lot of him, which is crazy because like on tape, you see the explosion like hitting the gap. And maybe it doesn't like I have his pass rush as the worst of these C tackles that I have graded so far at a 7 though, because I think at worst case, if he doesn't develop actual like counters and moves and all this stuff, which he has to a good extent now, it's just not like an elite level by any means, because it's just not what he's asked. That's not his specialty. So, and with that D line, which I think we're a lot of the times we're letting it go how incredible this D line is that a guy like Jermaine Johnson had to transfer just to get snaps to really unlock his true potential. Like ridiculous how good this D line is. And Jordan Davis is the focal point for a fucking reason. He is the absolute unit, the unicorn, the stud D tackle that is game changing for your defensive line. Because even if he doesn't develop all the fancy counters, and I first of all, if I see him do a perfect spin move, I'm going to shit myself. But because that's just scary as it is, because we don't see that from him. He just bull rushes and chucks and rips and swims. This is what he should do. But he does such a good job at least pushing the pocket at worst on passing downs that he's still going to be effective regardless. The thing with him is his deficiency in the passing game is nowhere near everyone else's acumen in comparison to the run game, where he is the most effective person on this field. And on any of these D tackles, D ends, I don't give a shit. He dominates, and I love Travis Jones, who we're going to get to here. but he can't even compare really yet. But the thing is, Travis Jones got blocked by 3 guys. He had no help. A lot of his tape just is him getting triple teamed and staying around. Jordan Davis gets triple teamed as well. He had help. So the team is still ridiculous. But
Yeah.
he still gets triple teamed, and you have to at least double team him on every play or you lose. So while he develops and gets some weight issues maybe under control, which we're not even sure is fully a problem,
Yeah.
like we have
That's
to
fair.
see it at this level because all those concerns could be written back to Georgia having another stud D tackle that they had to put in the lineup to get him some reps because they knew Davis and Wyatt were gone.
Yeah.
and
Well,
and Walker. They're
yeah.
losing all 3 guaranteed, and you
It.
have maybe a better D tackle waiting in the wings.
I
He
was
had to
just
get
gonna
on the
say,
field, and
Jalen
the only
Carter is
person that was
better.
coming off was Jordan Davis for passing downs.
Yeah. It's
So
that's
a lot
fair.
of his concerns could be accredited to that, and that's why I don't just rip him apart. Obviously, he has tied for the worst motor of this class for me so far because we haven't seen 3 down workhorse motor, but I've seen him chase down people, which again, terrifying.
Yeah.
He needs to work on hand counters, but in pass rush in general, as long as his weight doesn't become an issue, which I don't foresee necessarily. I mean, even Vita Veo, who's among the best D tackles in the world right now, it took him like 2 years to really get to where he wanted to be on all aspects of the game. And if that's the worst case scenario for Jordan Davis, I'll be extremely happy to have a game changing nose tackle for my team.
Do you think his ceiling is higher than what Vita Vea is right now?
Yeah, yeah. I think
Okay.
his ceiling is somehow a more athletic Vince Wilfork, which is the most terrifying thing in the fucking world to me. Because that
That's fair.
big old country boy is hilarious, and he was a literal monster for the
Yeah,
Patriots defense and the Texans defense.
this is true. And I'll say, even based on film, he'd be my 4. Um, but his production grade is really low because of that lowered pass rush. And I mean, there's an emphasis on both run stopping and pass rush in our production grade, and he just did not have that production level either. So
He didn't, but again, I'm not gonna for having a reduced hand placement, encounters, and moves and toolbox. Uh, he still got it done in the passing game when he needed to, or he at least made the pocket completely collapse. So to if someone has like pass rush grade for him like 5 or below, I question what you saw necessarily because or if you're just grading like he's an edge because if you're grading like he's an edge, he's probably a 3. But because we're gonna get into Walker here, who's more of the style of edge that people would be grading to D tackle as, I guess, because they're pushing the pocket more than trying to sprint around the edge. And if you're grading like that for D tackles, they have no shot to have a good grade. I don't know which one of these would have. Maybe Liao, and he'd probably get a 6, 6.5.
yeah, yeah, right. All right, who's your 3? We need to stop talking about Jordan Davis.
My 3, so I closed that one. Travis Jones.
Hey, mine too.
So yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Talk to me
I'll
about
let you go
Travis
over
Jones.
Travis Jones because I kind of talked a
Okay.
lot about.
So Travis Jones to me he's not the best, clearly, but I think he's my favorite defensive tackle to watch because of just he's a very, very diverse player in that like you can throw him at nose tackle, you can throw him at 3 tech, and I think he can win in both spots. And so uh, you take a player like that, he's a 4th-year junior. He was at the Senior Bowl. He made waves at the Senior Bowl. It kind of put him on the radar, and his stock has just flown upward ever since. Super athletic dude. 9.4. I don't know if I updated that
It is.
officially.
I double
9.4.
checked all these today.
Thank you. That is helpful. 9.4 athleticism, relative athletic score. I think he's a high motor guy. I think he's got good hand placement. I think he's got powerful hands. UConn isn't playing Alabama every week, but I think it's easy to see that translate, especially at the Senior Bowl when you can watch those reps and watch how he can manhandle centers or guards. Super strong player. I think he lacks a little bit in instincts, and I think finishing tackles is where I do have concerns about Travis Jones. But outside of that, man, like I think you're getting another player that's just not coming off the field for you. I think he can stay on the field for 3 downs, and that's valuable. I have him as my 3, like I said, right ahead of Jordan Davis. I'm excited to see what Travis Jones can do when he's not getting triple team, because I think that is a scary, scary sight in itself.
Yeah, and I think if we got to see that, if he like transferred and we got to see stuff like that, um, I think he could be the one in this class. Like he's that impactful from, like you said, right above the center and on either side. And honestly, I wouldn't be scared to have him as like a split four, like just try to absolutely blow up that side if it has like a dominating guard tackle combo and you just need to blow that side up. Travis Jones, same exact things. He needs to work instinctual things, and most of that, I think, in your opinion as well, is we just didn't get a chance to see it.
Yeah.
He physically couldn't show instincts half the time because he was fighting for his life to get away from 3 people. Like, we're not joking. Like, multiple head coaches have come out and said we literally game planned to throw 3 people at him and hope he only had 6 tackles and a tackle for loss and a sack. Like this
Right.
dude's an absolute game changer. And yes, it was at UConn, so maybe if it was at Bama or if it was at Florida or something, we wouldn't have seen the same thing. Or if it we'd see. But like he's ridiculous, and tackling I agree he needs to get better. There's a lot of just trying to bear paw you, and that would get you down. It's not finishing, you're just at best slowing him down a lot of the times, which he did still finish with that sometimes, but that's
Yeah.
just because he's a monster. Yeah, I think his athletic score is a lot better than I thought it'd be, so he kind of shot up. But he is only 1/10 of a point behind Jordan Davis for me.
Okay.
But he also has a better production grade than Davis. So,
Yeah.
hit or miss there. But
Final note on Travis Jones and specifically the instincts. So when we're talking about that, I think there's a pretty popular like play that went viral of Jordan Davis like just holding an opposing center with one arm and just kind of sitting in a gap,
yeah,
and the spatial awareness, or not really spatial awareness, but the awareness to hold that gap despite the running back hitting the cutback lane, which I think is what happened. Obviously, it didn't matter. Jordan Davis is a monster, and he made the tackle anyway. But if he doesn't hold that gap, you know, then they are running through that gap. That is an instinctual play. That's something that we don't get to see because there is no Travis Jones holding off one guard because he had 2 and a center in front of him. So quite often. All right, who's your 2?
yeah. Last thing for him, he is
Okay,
a first round grade for both of us.
yes, absolutely.
All right. My 1 is your 2, which is in reality your 1, but we'll get to whatever.
No.
So just we're gonna talk about Devontae Wyatt here, but Christian has Trayvon Walker as his number 1 D tackle. I have
Yes.
him as an edge, plain and simple. So that's why we keep going at each other, and we will just get to him probably next because it's probably a good stepping stone. Or no, we'll just get to him when he gets to my ranking. Oh no, we have to. It's your D tackle. We have to go next.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
Devontae White's first. He is my first D tackle, because he's just an absolute stud. He has better production numbers than Jones and Davis, which does put him up, I will say, but top end athletic score 9.58. That's 6'2" and a little bit over half and 315. So he's a monster of a human. Really good motor on the field. He was their bread and butter on the inside for most plays on passing downs. He has the best, tied for the best explosion from this D tackle class for me so far. A lot with him, and he has really good instincts as well. But a lot with him, I think he was so helped with having Jordan Davis that I am a little nervous for. Like, I have his instincts really well because he shot so many gaps so quickly, which is he absolutely tears through gaps instantaneously almost. It's ridiculous. But knowing that you have Walker next to you or outside or on the other side, and Davis trying to come up and just seal the middle and everything. I think he was just able to completely shoot gaps without any repercussions because he knew he could just go and make the play. And even if he didn't, it was going to be fixed because even if everyone on that D line failed, oh fuck, those linebackers are there.
Yeah,
So
right.
like there was no winning against this Georgia defense. However, that's kind of the shit talk on Devontae Wyatt because that's the only thing really bad I can say, except his tackling, where I think is lackluster at best. It's just slightly above average for me. He definitely needs to finish a lot better. And I think he a lot of times because he was shooting the gaps, maybe he just didn't have the right angle. So I think there's some tackling form and just breaking down a little bit better once you get past that initial step that he needs to get better at. That being said, he is good in the run. I gave him an 8 out of 10, but I gave him an 8.5 in pass rush because of this gap shooting. He is absolutely deadly in explosion, just getting straight through. He shows good power and punch and still good hand counters, among the best in the class at that as well. So he just plain and simple gets it done from the 3 tech position. I wouldn't put him inside, but I think he could do it. Like I wouldn't put him at 1, but I think he could do it if you needed it.
Yeah.
Just depending on what you're trying to do. But he is just overall very, very good. He does everything great. He just needs to get better at tackling. And I do have some concern that him being the lone star would like yield not this kind of results.
Yeah.
That being said, he's still my D tackle 1 because he's very, very fucking good.
Yeah.
Uh,
He
the
is.
thing, the problem with him, and the reason I think Jordan Davis is going to get drafted before him, is because he does not change the game for your defensive line. He can be your star D tackle, don't get me wrong, but Jordan Davis changes the game plan.
Yeah.
Devontae Wyatt can stop the game plan, but he doesn't change it.
That's a good way of putting it. Man, I would throw Travis Jones in
I
the
think he does
he's
too. I don't think he stops the. I think he stopped. I think he was the game plan in college because of where he was at. I can't give him that distinction because I need to see
I
it at a
know.
different level.
I know. Yeah, but everything you said, we have the same grades pretty much across the board. The pass rush grade 8.5. I think you're right, but I think when we talk about edge rushers, we often hear the term speed to power. Devontae Wyatt has speed because he is very explosive off the line. I think we talked about Big Phil Mathis. I think he goes by Phil Fedarian.
I believe so.
But we talked about him and how I wouldn't slide him out to 5 tech in most schemes. Like he can hold the line if he's out at 5 tech. Devontae Wyatt can probably win from a 5 tech position too. I think he
Yeah,
has that kind of
the first
explosiveness.
yeah first step is lethal.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what kind of drew him to me. I was watching the two of them, and I think you're right. I think having a mammoth of a man definitely lets you play freely and lets you just pin your ears back and go. I think there's a world in which Devontae Wyatt can slide into 1 tech, 0 tech. I think he can be successful there. I just don't think
Yeah,
that's his bag.
yeah. It'd be weird because you would almost have to have him bulk up slightly. Like
Mhm.
at 315, obviously he could do it, but you want kind of the 325, 330, 340, somewhere in there of a D tackle or like a nose tackle. That's what you want because you want them. The main job of a D tackle is to stop run and get blocked by as many people as fucking possible.
Yeah,
It's just what it is, and just stand there, do not get moved, clog up everything. That's half your fucking job, if not almost all of it. So
yeah,
that's why I'd be concerned putting it in there only because I think it's doing a disservice to your defensive line. Uh,
yeah,
because you're almost asking him to bulk up, which is going to lose some of the, explosiveness, is going to lose some of the speed and the pass rushing skills, which a lot of it is the speed with him in the interior.
yeah, yeah. I agree. Great player. Let's talk about Trayvon Walker.
Yeah.
So first, I want to explain myself and why I've been kind of waiting to do this. I haven't gone in depth on this. Trayvon Walker, to me, when I graded him as an edge rusher, is a second to third round player. this was well before the workouts. This was well before we knew that he's an elite athlete. And now, of course, I know he's an elite athlete. I graded him as that, and he still kind of fell there because I think he is extremely raw as an edge rusher. Now, you said he's an edge rusher. That is clear to me. I get it. Like I get it. But the role that I would use him in, I think so. First and second down, 5 tech. I'm cool with that. I'm not going to grade him as that though, because I think where he's going to win and where he's going to be the best is as a pass rushing 3 tech, where he can use his power and his, yeah, just his freaking power. I don't know that I've ever seen a more powerful dude. Like, he shouldn't have been able to win as much as he did, but because he is so freaking strong, he knocked a freaking Michigan lineman. I don't know if you saw the clip today, which I watched it live and back. He knocked a Michigan lineman who was coming at him full steam, balanced, pretty like he knocked him back like 2 yards just with his one arm. I was like, that's insane. That is absolutely insane. People shouldn't be able to do that. However, I don't think he has enough bend to win outside consistently. I think you can develop him as an edge rusher, and that is like what he will be eventually. But I think what you got to do is you have to generate the pressure from within with him to at least from day one. I think year one, you toss him at 3 tech, you let him go. And as a 3 tech, which is what I graded him as, I mean, it's some elite stuff here. I put explosiveness 8, strength 9, even being on the inside. I think that he is still one of the strongest players at the position. Hands 9, should have been a 10 probably, if I'm being completely honest. Motor, high motor guy. That's how he won. Randy, talk to me about Trayvon Walker. I know he's high up on your edge rusher group, but we'll kind of gloss over that once we get there.
This is how we want to do it.
Yeah.
So he is an absolute god. I view him as an edge. I think that's just plain simple. But I view him as the edge and the fit of, like, I think your ceiling, which is where he's going to be drafted from, because he is an absolute physical freak that, these guys that are really all about drafting the upside, which is a few of the guys in the top. So he could really go early.
He's not getting out of the top 3
fucking train here
every time.
But it's like
Trayvon
the elongated horn that's just rude.
I know. Trayvon Walker's not getting out of the top 3. I want to be the first to tell you that. I just don't think it happens.
He could, but there's no way he gets past 5. Like, he's like,
that's fair.
Like, in the absolute worst case. So I will say this, just to cover all grounds, there's no way Trayvon Walker is not a top 10 pick. Plain and simple. Because correct. Even if we get trade ups for quarterbacks and everything, and the Jets trade back and they're not at 4, and maybe the Giants want to make sure they get the tackle at 5, and oh shit, Thibodeau's there at 7, maybe we'll go there. He's not getting past the Jets at 10. Or the Falcons at 8, Seattle at 9. There's no fucking way he's past 10.
No.
I'd be so shocked. Okay, so that's out of the bag. He's a freak athlete who, at worst, day one to me, will be in the Trey Flowers mold of an edge, to where he is not dominating with speed, even though he's fucking fast, and he is not dominating with hand counters and everything. He at this point, Trey Flowers does, but Trey Flowers plays with pure power and closes the pocket, wins by setting edges and dominating towards the passer, where he has more speed rushers opposite him, and he gets to continually do that. That's where I think for the first 3 years, that's where I would expect his level of play to be, without this continued growth and getting better bendy wise, which I think he very well can, because this is a very high motor player with excellent strength, especially for the edge position. I have him 9.5 out of 10. Interior, I agree, it would be a 9, but at edge, I would have it a little bit higher just because of that pure strength. I think he is one of those awkward bodies. So, like, Rashawn Gary played a D tackle, he's clearly an edge, and obviously it's just a different body type to be in a D tackle, where they're not the 300, they're 270, 275 here for Walker. I think his absolute upside is a movable chess piece like you do with JJ Watt and Aaron Donald. Obviously, not to that level, in my opinion, but that's the unlocked potential that people are going to be drafting. Like, that's why he's going to be going, because you can literally continually move those two guys and create advantageous matchups for him as well as everyone else around him. And he's an absolute game changer. That being said, at this point, coming out as a prospect, he's my DN3.
Yeah.
Because he's not ready to be in consideration with the top two, in my opinion, even though I do have him as still a first round grade and very, very good. I think there's a lot of potential stuff that still has him. I have him over Jermaine Johnson simply because Jermaine is an edge, Trayvon Walker is an edge and a chess piece. I think that versatility gives him that slight nod in that regard.
That's fair. It's an interesting study though, because you said I think his bend is up there with like Karlaftis. Karlaftis is better. There's more reps of it. And we've talked about this Georgia defense quite a bit now, but it's worth noting that he played a very specific role.
Yeah.
He is so athletic that he was taking reps at linebacker and workouts, and he was.
There were so many times, literally anytime they blitz, he's out in coverage. And I don't, it's fucking ridiculous, but
Yeah.
it works. And
Yep.
he's not making the picks, but he will at one point,
Right.
and doing this kind of thing. And that exactly is going to get him drafted even higher, because now he
Right.
can be a 3-4 outside linebacker or just a stand up edge rusher, where I think is where we see better bend and speed from him, is when he actually gets a chance to be a stand up fucking attack. Whereas he still has the good explosion from like the 3-point stance and everything, but I it's just not up there with the top. Even though I do have him as an 8.5 for an edge, like it's just he has instant first step explosion. It's just we don't
You,
see it. We don't see the finishing part of it most of the time from the edge, because he's the edge setter in Georgia.
yeah. Do you get where I'm coming from though? Like I
I
would
get
still
where you're
play him at
coming
5
from.
tech.
Yeah, but see, like, to say he's a D tackle playing 5 tech to me is an edge. Like, that's
So really, what I see him as is a 3-4 down edge. So like
yeah,
to me, that's more interior. Of course, they
but
do kick out wide sometimes, but
yeah,
like
it's
it,
it's rarely three. It
screw it.
depends on the team though, and it depends on the
You're
guys
right.
around him and where he's being drafted. Like, if he goes to the Texans at 3, he's an edge rusher, plain and simple. He's literally their heir apparent to JJ Watt, which is the unfortunate for him that he has to be in that shadow. But he's your movable piece where he's your rusty tackle, but he's also this ridiculous outside threat. And if he's inside, he's making plays up and down the field, and he could be out in coverage from the interior, from weird cloud coverages and packages. But it, my worry for him is the Lions. I don't know what to do with that if he
Neither.
goes there.
I don't think I've heard that. So today, I'm pretty sure
He's
Jeremiah said
clearly
that
the
it's.
bolt they like, though. That's the problem.
I know. Today, I think Jeremiah said it sounded like Kayvon is going too, and we've come full circle, which is hilarious.
Fun.
Yeah, right. So yeah, we don't need to talk about Trayvon Walker anymore. But I do think that everything you're saying, that's why, like, he's still a first round grade for me, like, and
Yeah,
high, very
I
high.
I think if you had, I I think at this point, looking at his tape, I don't see as an edge rusher, especially with where you basically have him playing as a D tackle, how you could have him as like a back end second grade, in my opinion. Just personally, because like there's no way I would ever pick Nick Benito over him.
I hadn't graded Benito yet for what it's worth. I think he was my edge 7.
Yeah. Well, and
Great.
Benito's my 9 as a second round grade. Like I would never even consider picking Benito over him. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't pick Maja over him because he's clearly one dimensional in the scheme he's going to go to, at least right now. And Boya Mafe, who is rising up boards fast, I think you could consider that as immediate playmaking, but potential wise, Walker's gotta, like it's just hard to even
Yeah.
like, because I know where you basically told me you would have his bend and he would be down, even if he had the same grades everywhere else, he'd be 5, maybe 6 for my edges, if I had that bent grade.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, we need to move. So more guys that I like,
Yes,
defensive tackles before we get over there. Logan Hall. I
yeah,
didn't think I liked him, and then I kept watching, and I was like, okay, I can see it.
he's
I
solid.
think I think he's a strictly three tech. He played a lot of five tech. I just don't see him there. Um, I
He
as
could
a
do it
full
as
time player.
yeah, he can. So I think initially he might be the five tech, just while he continues to get bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
Because like, I'd be concerned as a full time three tech, like three down, like as a pass rush D tackle at three, I'd be instantly happy with his production. Just from that size, but that's my concern on him. But I still have a second round grade on him, I believe.
Yeah, I do as well. I believe. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Perry and Winfrey. What did you watch him?
Yep. Another guy that we need athleticism score for, but we have a good guess. Very, very high motor guy that is good in pretty much fucking everything. He's the second round grade for me. Honestly, so worst trade I do run stopping is the worst trade I have for him. Because it's just what he needs to work on. I think he's a pass rush D tackle that can pretty much play all three downs, in my opinion. Just with that motor, it's ridiculous. Like there's still some stuff he needs to work on, but clearly a second round pick because I think he can make an impact day one.
So Winfrey's a pass rush D tackle that played nose tackle for Oklahoma. He
Yeah,
was way
it
out of
doesn't make it's
position.
fucking ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's definitely out of
it's
position,
terrible.
but I get it. It's weird. Like he's a weird body type for. It doesn't make sense that he was nose tackle. It made the film infuriating because
Yeah,
he's 6'3", 290.
yeah.
You know,
I don't know what they were
but he's
thinking.
playing a pass rush one tech, which is so
It's yeah,
weird. But he did it well, plain and simple.
it yeah. He shoots gaps really well. One other guy that I like that grades a little lower. He's my 11 right now. Atito Agbania. We talked about him
Yes,
last
sir.
on Friday.
I believe so.
Um,
Yeah.
but he not a super athletic dude, but just a dude that gets it, man. Like he's strong, and sometimes he forgets how long he is to couple with that strength. But I think when he puts it all together, when he gets some good coaching, I think you're going to see a starter or at least a high level rotational guy at the NFL level. I expect him to be drafted probably day 3, if I'm being completely honest, because of that athleticism. But just a guy I really liked watching his film. Really fun.
Yeah, I think there's some good developmental players in this D tackle class, him being included, obviously. I think House Garrett can do that as well. Henningsen. The list goes on, but there is a steep decline after the guys we talked about, in my opinion. At least like the first 7 we went over there. After that, I think it's more developmental, less impact day one.
All right, let's get to the edge rushers.
Yep.
We're running out of time already, which is sad, but we'll do the same thing. 5 through 1. Who's your 5?
George Karlaftis is my 5. He is still, in my opinion, a very raw prospect. Obviously, pretty new to the game and everything. So his junior coming out of Purdue, 6'4", 275. So he is listed as more of like the bigger edge, like Trayvon Walker would be as well for me. He's a better athlete than I thought he would get. So props to him on that. 9.2 RAS is actually really impressive for him. Not that I had him as a bad athlete by any means, but I would have probably had it like 7.5, 8 off the top of my head, just looking at it. But he was impressive, plain and simple. We already talked about it before. He doesn't have the best bend. It's above average. I have it above Trayvon Walker, but it's because he's had more snaps at it. As being like a pure edge, not dropping back, not being an edge, like the edge pass rusher where you're just setting the edge. Karlaftis was meant to be the difference maker on a defensive line and the impact player. Um, there's some concerns to his rawness and the instincts finishing toolbox, the toolbox especially. It's almost empty, uh, which is
Yeah.
crazy. It's weird because I don't have him. I have him good with his hands, but I think a lot of that is the power. I do think he has
Yes.
some counters and good just tech like good moves. I think the technique needs to be a little bit improved, and precision and when to use and what to use. I think he still isn't there, and some of that is just kind of guesswork and trying to get it to work. But there's times where I think I have toolbox a little because he'll do one thing and it's not working, and the play's over, and he just tries to bull rush after that because there's nothing else he's doing. And I think there's some concern there. Being absolutely dominated by a tight end is also a concern. Just want that on the record. But
Well, that's not a normal tight end though.
he got dominated by the tight end.
It's
An
one of the best
entire game.
blocking
It's an
tight ends I've
entire
ever seen.
game is the
I
problem.
know.
It
I
was
know.
very concerning. But I was happy with the tape besides that game. So I was
Yeah.
very concerned going into his tape study after watching that Purdue Ohio State game with just what happened to him. I do have him as a first round graded talent because I think I don't think he's an unlocked prospect yet. There's so much potential for him, but he shows good explosiveness, decent instincts. Honestly, for I gave him a 7.5 for instincts. I think it could be slightly high personally, but
I
you
gave him
already
an eight and a
see
half, dude.
what.
I gave him an 8.5. I
Okay,
think
well,
that's one of his best traits.
so I'm fine with it. I was a little concerned, but I think it is one of his best traits. But there's still so much for him to unlock. That's why I have it lower, just because I think it just needs to continue to develop, and that's the best thing you can have as a concern coming out as a prospect, in my opinion. Where there's actually no lacks in his game. Maybe worst case you could say Ben, but you see it at least on tape at times. So for him, he just needs more snaps, and he's going to continue to get better. His best traits, motor and strength, for me. He's clearly at that size a very very strong person. He can easily dominate with the punch and with the bull rush, and he shows really good motor for that size. I actually have him. I think he's in the same mold as Trayvon Walker in this regard, where I would trust him to always be on the field, uh, and I could see him as a movable chess piece to be a little bit inside outside. And I think he's scheme versatile to play 3-4-4-3 because of that. So I think he should be a locked in first round talent to most people. I think it should be back in the first, which is where I think he will be going when all said and done here. But yeah, I really like him.
I'm actually way higher on him. So
Yeah.
I have him as my 3, and I have him.
Yeah, but you got one less quiver in that
True, but
arrow in
also
that quiver. Yeah.
he would have been higher than Trayvon as an edge rusher. It wasn't an argument, but I said, I still think Karlaftis is good. I know that the consensus is kind of knocking him and saying that, he doesn't bend and he's not this high level athlete. Well, he is. We have proof that he is that high level athlete. And for what it's worth, he was on Feldman's freaks list last year. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of knew that he was going to be athletic. And the reason I think everyone is thinking, oh, well, he's not that on film, it's because he's not. Like, he, like you're saying, he's kind of raw in that he doesn't even know how to tap into that athleticism right now. But I think that's a good thing. Like, he was compared to AJ Epinesa. No. AJ Epinesa was a really, really bad athlete. And I get like power rushers, like especially Big Ten power rushers, you can kind of start to think of that, but that's not who he is. And the argument that stemmed from that was someone said Karlaftis does not bend. I said, well, yeah, I mean, he kind of does sometimes. It's not all over the place. He's not David Ojabo out there. But yeah, I love Karlaftis. He is like in my top 10 prospects in this class. So
yeah, I would have him as more surprisingly flexible than bendy. Like I don't know if that makes sense to listeners necessarily, but the way he like slips through cracks is better than you would expect from somebody with his frame. But the Epinesa, that's just rude. It's just rude.
I remembered who it was, and I'm not going to out them because I like this person quite a good bit.
Oh yeah, it's almost like you have a show with it.
Yeah, this is true. I think it was said on the show too. Sorry, Jeff. Love you, buddy. All right, who's your 4? Oh wait, my 5's different. So
yeah,
we have to talk about my 5. So my 5 is still David Ojabo. the guy I just talked
Mhm.
about. David Ojabo, important context with him. Well, a couple pieces of important context. He has a torn Achilles, so he's not going to play for really, I would say, all of his rookie season. So I actually knocked him for that.
Well,
And
yeah, well,
what's
I
that?
think it should be. You have to give him some knock for that because we don't know. We don't know if he's going to be the same prospect. That's
Exactly.
so you have to have some concern there. Um, it's just a level that you put at it. I don't know what you put like minus wise, but I don't know. You don't have to really say, but
I got
um,
aggressive.
yeah,
It
you always do. So you have to do that, and especially because of a guy like this is why you have to do that because he's a junior that is coming out because mainly because he's losing Hutchinson. Uh, not that he wouldn't be a top edge next year, but he you get you're not going to have as good a help as you would next year at Michigan on the other side as you will at the NFL this year,
yeah.
no matter where you go.
Yeah, this is true. The other important context, and like I said, I did get aggressive. If I didn't knock him for the injury, he's my edge three over Karloftis, who I just spoke volumes about. So the other important context, David Ojabo has only been playing football for like 4 years, like
Hmm.
the whole entire game. He didn't start playing football until his junior year in high school. So I guess that's 5 years, but still, like the fact that he is that raw, still learning how to play the game, and was that freaking dominant, just it's absurd. The bend that this kid displays, it's up there. Let me see. Let me see. I have it tied with Kayvon as the bendiest player in this class. Like I think that
Same.
when I'm thinking of like especially recent prospects, Jason Owe, Adafe Owe, my bad, Mr. Owe.
Bastard.
Um, so Adafe Owe, like he was drafted in the first because of his athletic profile, the way he bends, and the way he can just pin his ears back and get to the quarterback. That's what David Ojabo does. And he's, something that we obviously don't grade on is we don't grade fumble, fumbles caused, but David Ojabo has a nose for the football when he is rushing.
Yeah.
He is consistently looking
I
to cause that.
yeah, I put that into like it's very, very small in the grading, but I put it into like the hands and
That's fair.
finishing and toolbox. Like it's something I try and like put in there because it is a skill that
It is.
you have to master at the next level because you will not get sacks most of the time. You have to just try and affect the play. So trying to hit that arm or hit the shoulder is a very, very key trait.
Yeah, and I built that into his instincts actually,
Mhm.
which, to be honest, he's not a super instinctual player
No,
outside of that because he's so raw. But yeah, he's still my five. So
he
does he fall in your top five?
he is actually six for me simply
You
because
hater.
of the injury and rawness. If
Yeah,
there was no
that's fair.
minus, he would Jesus. He would only go up. Yeah, he would just be ahead of Carl Loftus. He would still be slightly behind Walker and Jermaine Johnson,
Okay,
barely. But yeah,
sounds good. So Jermaine Johnson, you just mentioned him. He is both of our fours. Talk to me about Jermaine.
yeah. A guy like I already brought up, he had to leave Georgia to truly unlock his full potential. It wasn't that he couldn't get on the field because he could. It's just he would have been rotating snaps and he wouldn't have been. This allowed him to further grow and become the prospect that he is, to where he is legitimately. Uh, Him and Hutchinson, in my opinion, are viewed as the guys that day one are going to step on the field no matter what and be at closer to the ceiling and be instant impact, like most likely double digit sack guys, just absolute killing it. And we're gonna get to the other guys later, who I do think like Thibodeau clearly is going to be an impact, but he still is somewhat stuff to work on necessarily. He's not at his ceiling necessarily, which is the scariest part. Jermaine is closer to his ceiling right now, but I do think there's still room to grow for him. I have him as a first round grade, just like every edge that we've talked about so far, which is ridiculous. He has the best production of anyone in this class, which is the top you could have. It has 10. He absolutely fucking killed it this year. Where he needs to work, first step explosion. is good, but it's among tied for the lowest of the class here so far that I have done. So he needs to continue to work at that. He needs to continue to work on his bend. Necessarily, he does. It's a lot of the same thing to where he has so many tools, and he does. Where and again, it's another spot that he has to continue to get better at tools, but he can do everything. I don't think he knows exactly like what he wants to do each play. So he is still continuing to develop on that, and I think just more reps will continue to do that. I think if he would have stayed at Georgia, we'd be talking a lot worse of him, which is crazy. But it's just because he wouldn't have had this opportunity to be the guy and show that he can do it on his own, to where we're not questioning is it just because everyone else was fucking there that he got these 10 sacks. He just killed it on his own. So he needs to continue to work on first step explosion and bend and just keep adding to the toolbox and have he's a guy that I think of probably getting like a go-to move kind of thing to where he just dominates with it, like Freeney with the spin, and everyone has kind of their own thing that is like their go-to, and I think he just doesn't know what he wants to do at times, and that's really the only reason I have somewhat knocks on him for those things. So those are the only things he doesn't do perfect. He's good with his hands, especially with power. I gave him an 8.5 of strength. His punch is ridiculous. He's got good counters. It's just timing and when to use it. Some placement issues at times, but he just won without it anyways. So he's absolutely ridiculous. He has a really good motor. He showed good instincts this year to work through all the challenges that comes with being pretty much the stud of the D line and almost only the stud. So people are running away from him, and he still dominated. I think he finishes tackling and on pass rushes with relative ease. I think he's overall a really, really good prospect. I have him as a high first round grade.
Yeah, he's a high football intelligence player too.
Yes.
I think that is, instinctually I don't have him as the highest, but
No.
I think when you factor in how technical he was and how intelligent he was in run support, I think that's where you start to feel really comfortable about this guy being on the field and impactful day one. The bend stuff is interesting because at the Senior Bowl, we saw him bending. We saw him
We
being
did see,
dominant.
yeah, we saw more, but I don't want to take into account a lot of the Senior Bowl stuff with this defensive line,
Me, same.
especially the edge rushers, because while we saw Penning there, everyone loved the tape that circulated, not all of the tape. Um,
That they didn't
there
see.
was a lot of problems with the tackles just being dominated on the outside or being countered inside and being dominated that way. To me, watching those one-on-ones shows you some of the potential of these guys, but it doesn't show you the actual grade as of right now.
I agree, and that's kind of where I was coming back around to is that on film, Jermaine Johnson didn't bend all that well. I mean,
No,
it's still above average. He's still very
100%.
very good, and I think that he does have room to grow there.
Yep,
But
that's
he wasn't with the top of the class there. So
no, that's all of his deficiencies, as it were, and compared to the top two of the class, which is what we're kind of going with here because they're above and beyond everyone else. So his deficiencies to those two guys, I don't know if he can get much more explosive. I think at best he can get like another half a point explosive. There are some false steps at times. So he could get a little bit better and a little bit more decisive and just definitive in that step, and that could give him that extra edge. And that's something we saw Hutchinson elevate to this year, where he didn't have that last year, and he just fucking has it now. I can tell you that. So
yeah,
I think that's the only spot that I don't think I could see much improvement for Tremaine, but even the slight improvement can be game changing for him at the next level. Whereas Bend and Toolbox, uh, I think he can continue to develop. Again, like he's not going to become a 9 Bend overnight or between the next 3 years. I don't even think he'll ever get there, but he can get a little bit more bendy or know when to use it better.
yeah, I agree. All right, you brought up Aiden Hutchinson. Is he your one or is he your two?
He's my one. Yes.
All right. So you're a Kayvon hater, I see. No, here's the thing. I had Hutch as my edge one for a long time, in the pre-draft process, and then I started to dive deeper into Kayvon, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't live with myself. So, talk to me about Aiden. What do you like about him? Why is he your one over Kayvon?
Okay, so 0.26. 0.26. So Aiden Hutchinson is above Kayvon Thibodeau because he is a better RAS.
All right. Yeah,
If that doesn't describe exactly what I'm gonna fucking get into right here, uh,
yeah,
he is literally above him because of RAS. It's the actual difference, which is insane
off
to
by
me.
0.26. Yeah, like
Yes, it's fucking ridiculous.
yeah,
So if Kayvon wants to come out and get a better 3 code, he can be one. Aiden Hutchinson is close to a finished product.
yes,
I think the best. It's hard to say stuff like this, but his ceiling is going to probably be like Nick Bosa for us, or at
yes,
least me, just because that's his game. That's exactly what he does. He isn't the most bend guy. He's got a 7.5 for me, but he has enough bend and he has effective bend to just continue to dominate the next level. Um, that's his lowest trait for me. His first step explosiveness, I watched 2020 tape and 2021 tape. Last year, it would have been probably a 7.5 with Jermaine Johnson and Karloftis. It's a 9 now. He is he's tied with Kayvon Thibodeau for the best in the class for me, as well as Boye Mafe. So shout out for him. He has a better toolbox than Kayvon Thibodeau right now, and that's just plain and simple.
that's
They're both
100% accurate.
incredible at finishing. I actually, you know what's crazy? I want to look at this for you too, because I want to see where you have it. So, okay, you have the same thing. It's crazy to me from watching before watching the tape, I think this is crazy that I have Kayvon as better instinctually than Aiden Hutchinson. But I think Aiden Hutchinson has had to work harder to get to this level, so I think that's part of the reason. I have him by a half point, you have him by a full point, but there's not much difference there. They're both the same strength. I do have Aiden Hutchinson as a better motor. I think that's his best trait, along with first step explosion and just hands as well, which is the same as Kayvon. Fucking, it's ridiculous. Literally, Kayvon has bend on Aiden. Aiden has motor and production
toolbox and
toolbox.
Yeah.
They're the fucking same, and those two things to the one thing literally even out. It's ridiculous. They are the same grade for me if they had the same RAS. Well, actually, that's incorrect. As a film grade, I have Kayvon as 80.12 and Aiden has 79.88. So the production does give Aiden the edge as well as the RAS. They are both top 5 grades for me. They're top 10 grades for you. So the Kayvon hater comment was bullshit because it's you, asshole.
And Aiden hater, I guess, but
yeah, you fuck. They're absolute studs. They would be, in my opinion, like a shot to be a top 5 pick in every class. That's just plain and simple because they're both close. Kayvon is an absolute freak impact player that is close to a finished product, but their technical stuff is what he has to continue to work at. And that's able to do once he gets the NFL, and guys like Von Miller are taking him to their camps and trying to get him a little bit better. Aiden is a finished product almost. I think he could work at the bend a little bit more. Besides that, maybe just getting better in certain situations with instincts, with using the right counters and going inside outside at different times and not just being like a dominant pass rusher through the outside shoulder or inside shoulder for one, and then having to be able to switch back and forth. I think he could get a little bit better. And then functional strength, like maybe a little bit better hand counters. Like you're nitpicking on what he could actually fucking improve on. Whereas like Kayvon, he's finished as an athlete to where it's ridiculous. And if he just figures out a couple more moves and when to use them, and maybe gets a little bit more functionally strong, he's a generational talent. It like
Yeah.
it's that
So
it's that good.
yeah, yeah. So you said your grades. So you have a 79.88 on Kayvon, you said?
So final grade, Kayvon is 89.12 and Aiden is 89.38, which
Okay.
puts them just over the threshold, if I recall, uh,
Yeah, it's
in the top
89.
five.
Yeah. 89 is the cutoff. So I am at 88.62 on Kayvon and 88.38
Yeah,
on Aiden. So right.
I put Kayvon as top five originally for you, but we do have that half point distinction in this current grading scale
And it
because we
would
didn't used to use the RAS complete grades.
yeah,
We rounded, so it's a little different. We may have to slightly tweak it, but whatever.
we will. We will.
Either
But
way, he's basically a top. Kayvon's basically a top five talent for you, and Aiden is the highest potential top five talent or top 10 talent for you. For the reference, generational for us is 93 to 100. Because you physically, unless we put bonus scores in, you can't get over 100. So those are just for reference for people. These guys are freaks.
they
These
are.
two are absolute freaks. They deserve to be the top two picks in this class, regardless, because there's
They
no
were.
quarterbacks that should be there, and edge rushers. The next most important position, and they are the best talents in the class. The only one for me that would rival it is Kyle Hamilton, which doesn't have a final grade for me. So
Yeah. You'll get there. You'll
yeah,
get there. And I feel confident that you're still gonna have the edge rushers over Kyle Hamilton, but I might
I
be
probably
off.
will, and it's because he's not going to have like the 9.8, 9.9 RAS where he still has, I believe, a 9 or like an 8.9 or something.
It's
So
it's around the 9. So
yeah, it's that literally that is probably going to put him like half a point below these two, which is
yeah.
ridiculous, but still,
So really quick, you talked mostly about Aiden there. So
I try.
I'll I'll talk
It was hard
mostly
to.
about Kayvon here, and we feel the same way clearly, except we just have them flipped. But they are the top two prospects in this class. Like Randy said, they would rival top five in every class, even if people keep saying there's no Miles Garrett in this class. It's close though. Like it's
Yeah,
really
that's
close.
Miles Garrett, uh, uh, Chase Young.
Yeah.
I would argue I would probably put Bosa ahead of both, but it's fucking close. Like Nick
Nick,
Bosa and
I was
Joey, I would say. Where Joey's a little bit more of an athletic guy, I would say, over Nick, but Nick is more like Hayden, where he just gets it done other ways. Most people view Nick as a better pass rusher because he gets more sacks, which is strange. But
right.
like those two, I think, are in the same camp, but because they produced at the place they did, I think they would still go ahead of these two. Um,
Yeah,
just
I
personally.
agree.
But that we're talking about the fucking best in the league coming out. Like we both have Chase Young as a generational talent. He's
Yes.
clearly going to go ahead of them.
Yeah.
Miles
Yeah.
Garrett clearly was going fucking ahead of him, and he's more of the Kayvon Thibodeau route, where he's this freak athlete that still had to unlock a couple things. And now, if we had this Miles Garrett coming out, he would be a fucking 99 100. So, or
Be a
at least a
100.
95. Like, he's ridiculous now.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the mindset. Like, yeah, they might not be Garrett, but they're damn close, and they are still the best prospects in this class. Thibodeau,
Yeah.
to me, super super bendy, and people said, where was that bend on film? All over it,
Yeah.
literally
What
everywhere.
are you
Like,
talking?
yeah, I don't know why people say things, but I saw that argument the other day. I was like, I get it. Like sometimes it looks like he's taking snaps off. And if you want to knock him for that, go ahead. I don't care. I don't care when you're that dominant. And, there's the character bullshit. eh,
It's
Pretty,
bullshit.
pretty
Yeah.
damn close to defamation at this point with
There's
some of the narratives.
there's no
Um,
football concerns. People are reading. You're saying people are reading in that he takes plays off because they've been told that he doesn't love football. So then he
exactly.
immediately is gonna any play that went the other direction on a stretch or a toss or roll out that side, and it's a three step rollout. He's gone. Oh well, he didn't chase all the way to the other side. He's not fucking making it.
Exactly. That's every player. And
Yeah,
I
every coach wants the guy that is so far out of the play, he's still gonna run to the pylon of the end zone because he wants to see if you could actually make it. That's fucking incredible. I love that player. That's my favorite player. It's
Yep.
not going to work most of the time. You're not catching him. So,
Well,
and
not
we've
only
seen
that,
Kayvon Thibodeau actually fucking do that and catch him.
well, not only that, but like Kayvon's also like he is seeing double teams. He is going
Yeah.
hard as a pass rusher every single snap. And we just talked about Myles Garrett. He does that. He doesn't chase players down to this opposite
No.
sideline. Sometimes he does, but there are times where he just kind of jogs and needs to catch his breath. That's fine. Yeah, Kayvon is my number one overall prospect. Super instinctual, super bendy, and like you said, untapped potential is still there. And so I would take him number one overall if I'm the Jaguars. I get it though. If you have a little bit of concern about, a mindset, I don't. But the Jaguars are not a stable organization, so I would understand not drafting him and drafting a guy like Aiden, who he doesn't. I guess he does look forward past football because he's doing a freaking podcast this week.
Yeah, but that's the mindset of the college. That's why that bullshit's going to be gone in the next 10
Exactly.
years because
Exactly.
everyone's doing that now. With Aiden is safe.
He is.
Aiden is a dominant player now, and he will be a dominant player for his career. The thing is, somebody sees the dominance of Kayvon, but they're scared and intimidated that he has outside entrance from football, which is
Yeah,
ridiculous
it is.
because
It's
it's a
stupid.
business. The owners and GMs and coaches treat it as a business and they punish you and move you away like it's a business. But if a player treats it as his job and not his life, he's destroyed for it,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. But that's where we are. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, great players. All of our top 5 players are great players for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite non-top 5? Really quick.
So I guess you could say Ojabo, but I would go Boye Mafe, who's a guy that's pretty much a first round lock for most people now. I've seen him as high as like to the Eagles. I would say that's where I've seen him to. Uh, Sometimes I've seen him even to the Ravens at times, but like absolute ceiling, I guess you could say, is like the Texans at 13. But I think of him as more as a 20s player. For me, he is a pretty much top of the line second round grade for me. Just because I think there's things he has to work on. He's not the bendiest player. He's above like Jermaine Johnson and Karloftis and um, Walker clearly, but he still needs to work on it. And then hands and toolbox and finishing some stuff are his weak spots for me. But he's still an absolute great player and is an impact player. So that would be my right outside the top that I would love.
Favorite? Uh, yeah, my favorite 6 to 10 is actually Nick Bonito. He's my 7, but he was my favorite evaluation because you're looking at a guy who's probably a pass rush specialist to start. But I don't care because I think that he's going to develop into a really, really good pass rush specialist that gets on the field on first and second down too. Just a highly athletic dude that was just incredibly productive, high motor player. I do get concerned about the size, as I do
Yeah.
with Myjai Sanders. Like I get concerned about those two, but
So I agree with that. I think Benito, and I think I saw you had the same negative where he's scheme dependent. Like I think
mhm,
he's more of a 3-4 guy. I think he's a stand up outside rusher for most teams. Majai is the same, but he has the height and length that allows him to pretty much play in any scheme.
he
But
could.
you just want a little bit more uh, strength onto the frame, not necessarily weight.
Yeah,
Because I mean, he's basically the same. He's taller and about the same weight as Kayvon Thibodeau at this point. He's a little bit lighter, but basically the same as David Ojabo. So you need to work on some functional stuff there, like strength wise. But other than that, Sanders and Benito, in my opinion, are both solid.
Yeah.
But both have some concerns here and there.
One other name I wanted to throw out there before we get done. There are a lot. Like I am looking at this list. I'm like, oh, I would love that player on my team. I would love that player.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But the one I wanted to talk about, because I just watched him the other night, D'Angelo Malone, the Western Kentucky kid, 6'3", 243, 9 overall, 9.03 relative athletic score, and you see it on film. He's a very, very lanky guy, but also in that similar mold where like he is a standing edge rusher. I just think that he has the ability to use that length and kind of stay on the field early. Pretty raw, his toolbox is really not there, but a greater amount of functional strength than I expected out of a dude that looks like a freaking rail out there.
Yeah. So the talent level after the first 2 rounds for edge class is going to drop off, but the potential level doesn't necessarily drop off. I think late day 2, day 3, at least early day 3, we have a lot of edges that have a lot of potential, like Malone, like you said, Tyreek Jackson, Tyreek Smith. Sorry, I saw Tyree Johnson later and threw me off. Josh Paschal, Sam Williams, Dominique Robinson, Cameron Thomas, a little bit Isaiah Thomas, Kingsley, and Egnagbare.
Yeah, I don't like him.
I know, but he has potential. And then Drake Jackson is a guy that's finally shooting back up board to the second round as a guy that was potentially a top 5 pick going into the season. He didn't play like that. No problems. Film doesn't show that. I get it. There's still a lot of potential there to unlock. He's just a junior coming out. He's a very early declare. So he's just leaving a program that he probably should leave. So Drake Jackson, I think, is another shout out for me. I will say, well, I don't disagree with you that Kayvon may be the best edge of the class. Like, obviously, he's 2 for me, but it's fucking debatable. I really don't care. I do think Aiden Hutchinson or Trayvon Walker, for me, building that Jaguars defensive line is where I would go, just to kind of complement Josh Allen on the other side and Caleb on Chase on at times, other than have the same kind of mold as him and just like pure speed rush the outside kind of thing, where obviously they both do a lot more than that. I'm just saying, like, that's the mold, and I guess you say you would do. Whereas Walker and Hutchinson, I get why people are putting them first, because it's a little bit different of a tool, and they can change the way it's done to where you can play inside out, and you can't just try and completely push a pocket to the outside with speed guys, because it's not going to fucking work. So that's why I think they're getting catapulted, and the bullshit that goes on that people are concerned with Thibodeau.
Yeah. Pushing pockets, aka pushing P, All right. And we're going to end on that.
Oof.
That was good. I like that. I'll pat myself on the back. All right, guys. We'll be back.
Myself in the back in white.
Yeah. Fair. So we will be back on Friday. Randy and I will talk about that and what we're going to do about that, because I just came to a realization as I said that. But we will be back on Friday with some team. Probably not live, probably pre-recorded. So don't try to comment, because I said I was going to try to hop on, and then I just didn't. I didn't hop on.
I retweeted it.
I also did that, and then I just continued watching prospects, getting ready for this one. So more important. But we'll be back then, and then next week, are we back to another mock?
Yeah. Oh, what a time to ask a question like that. We are either, I don't know if we're at another mock. I think we're done with that until the mega one.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I will try and quickly
load
that up. It's either that or we're doing linebackers. So it just saying.
Okay. That would make sense. So linebackers this week, and then
we still have to do linebackers and DBs, which is corners and safeties. So those are 2 big shows that still have to be done. And we already pushed back a week, so
Yeah. So next week will be linebacker rankings. The following will be DB rankings, and then
maybe we'll
actually we
figure
might do 2 shows next week. Surprise! Who
it
knows? Who knows? All right, Randy, do you have anything to add? We need to go.
out. No. Let's go.
Okay. This edge class is fantastic, and I am very excited for the NFL draft. We are within 20 days now. It is very quickly approaching. I am trying to hit 200 prospects watched. I have watched 179. So we've got some time, but I don't think it's going to happen, folks. I think I'm going to fail, but that's okay. All right. Do you have anything?
No.
Okay. For Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. We'll talk to you guys later this week. Peace.